Nobody saw it coming. Not the analysts. Not the commentators. Not even the most devoted fans who had sacrificed sleep halfway across the world, setting alarms for 2 a.m. just to watch a 21-year-old from Quezon City do the impossible. But on the evening of June 22nd, 2026, on the pristine grass courts of Bad Homburg, Alex Eala didn't just win a tennis match. She sent a message. She delivered a verdict. She rewrote a story that everyone thought had already been told. And the woman receiving that message, Elise Mertens, Belgian veteran, former world number 12, 20 WTA titles to her name, had beaten Alex Eala twice before. 2 months ago in Madrid, she hadn't just beaten her. She had erased her. 6-2, 6-1. 76 minutes. That scoreline had been living inside Eala ever since. But here's the thing about scars. In the right hands, they don't just heal. They become fuel. Madrid, the wound that started everything. To understand what happened in Bad Homburg, you have to go back to Madrid. You have to sit with that loss, because Alex Eala certainly did. April 24th, 2026. The Madrid Open. Mertens walked onto that court and gave a masterclass in exactly how to dismantle a young player who isn't ready yet. She found every weakness. She punished every short ball. She turned what could have been a competitive match into a clinic, and she walked off looking like she hadn't broken a serious sweat. Eala walked off looking like someone who had just been handed a ceiling. 6-2, 6-1. For a young player still finding her place among the elite, a loss like that doesn't just hurt. It plants doubt. It makes the gap between where you are and where you want to be feel like it might actually be permanent. But here's what that Madrid scoreboard never showed. It never showed the mornings that followed. The practice sessions. The film sessions, watching replays over and over, pausing on the moments where it all went wrong, asking the hard questions and sitting with the uncomfortable answers. It never showed the quiet, grinding, unglamorous work of a 21-year-old who refused, absolutely refused, to accept a defeat as a verdict. Alex Eala didn't file Madrid under things that broke me. She filed it under things I am going to fix. The week that defied belief. Fast forward to June 2026, and the tennis world was already struggling to find the right words for what Eala had been doing on grass. At the Berlin Open, she had beaten Elena Rybakina, the world number 2 and reigning Wimbledon champion. She had beaten a former world number 3. She had clawed her way to the semi-final of a WTA grass court event and lost to Linda Noskova in a tight 2-setter, 6-2, 6-4. But even in that defeat, something was visibly different about her. She didn't crumble. She didn't disappear into herself. She competed, she adjusted, and she walked away with her head up. That run pushed her 5 spots up the rankings, to number 30 in the world. Number 30. A number that meant something historic had just happened. For the first time in the entire history of Philippine tennis, a Filipino player had secured a seeded position at Wimbledon. The first Filipino in the sport's history to sit inside the top 32 at the Wimbledon seeding cutoff. Let that land for a moment. And then, less than 24 hours after losing that Berlin semifinal, she showed up in Bad Homburg with a wild card. She walked onto center court. She looked across the net. And standing there, waiting for her, was the exact woman who had given her that 6-2, 6-1 scar 2 months ago. Momentum versus history. Hunger versus experience. 21 years old versus everything she had already been through. The match, a masterpiece of revenge from the very first point. Everyone watching could feel it. Something was different. Eala's first serve came down the tee with a weight and pace that Mertens clearly hadn't prepared for, because how could she have? The player standing across the net from her in Bad Homburg was not the same player she had controlled in Madrid. The movement was sharper. The decision-making was faster. And those lefty angles, the same weapon that had tied Rybakina in knots just days earlier, were working like a precision instrument, pulling Mertens wide, pushing her off balance, taking away the flat, aggressive ground strokes that had been so devastating in April. Eala wasn't just hitting tennis balls. She was solving a puzzle she had already tried to solve once before, and this time, she had all the answers. The first set was a statement. She broke Mertens early, held with authority, and built a lead that began forcing her opponent into uncharacteristic risks. To her credit, Mertens fought. She always fights. 20 WTA titles don't come to players who quit. Every time she tried to impose herself, every time she reached for the big forehand that had overwhelmed Eala in Madrid, the ball either sailed long or came back at an angle she couldn't handle. In the stands, Philippine flags, smaller in number than the ocean of banners that had turned Berlin into a corner of Manila just days before, but every bit as loud, waved with rising intensity. Laban, the Filipino word that carries entire worlds inside it.
Fight.
Push forward. I believe in you. All of it, wrapped in a single syllable, echoing around the bad Homburg grounds. And when Eala's backhand winner kissed the sideline to close out the opening set, the scoreboard displayed a number that carried very specific weight. 6-2, the exact score by which Mertens had begun her dismantling of Eala in Madrid. The message had been received. Mertens regrouped in the second set. She always does. She ground through games, tried to change the rhythm, did everything a champion knows to do when a match is slipping away. For a stretch, it worked. She broke back and leveled the second set at 4-all. The entire Bad Homburg crowd leaned forward. This was the moment. This was where it would be decided. This was where, in Madrid, a younger and less certain Eala might have wobbled, might have let the doubt back in, might have remembered the ceiling. She didn't wobble. She broke back immediately, held, and then stepped up to serve for the match. 2 bounces of the ball. A high toss. A lefty serve that painted the line before Mertens had even begun to move. Match over. 6-2, 6-4. 1 hour and 21 minutes. The roar that followed didn't just come from Bad Homburg. It came from phone screens lighting up all over the Philippines. From people who had set alarms and never gone to sleep. From a nation that had watched this young woman fight and climb and absorb setbacks and come back. Every single time. Stronger than she left. The numbers that tell the full story, let's talk about the statistics for a moment, because they almost don't seem real. Eala won 78% of her first serve points on grass, a surface where first serve holds are never routine, where returns skid low, and the margins are razor thin. That figure is staggering on its own. She faced just 2 break points in the entire match, and saved both of them with aces. Mertens never actually broke her serve. Not once. She produced 24 winners to Mertens' 11, while committing just 10 unforced errors and forcing the Belgian into 19. Now hold those numbers against the context of what happened in Madrid 2 months ago. The 6-2, 6-1 dismantling, the power and aggression that had overwhelmed her, the match that had barely looked like a contest. Eala took every single weapon that had beaten her in April and turned it against its owner. She didn't try to overpower Mertens. She outsmarted her. She outmoved her. She out-executed her on every critical point. When asked about the match afterwards, Mertens was the kind of brief that only truly honest athletes can be after a loss like this. She played incredible tennis, the Belgian said. Then she paused and shook her head. I had no answers. No excuses. No tactical explanations. Just the truth. And the truth was that Alex Eala had been simply and comprehensively better. 1 week. 3 champions. 1 Eala. Now zoom out and look at the full picture of what Eala had just accomplished in 7 days. Elena Rybakina, world number 2. Reigning Wimbledon champion.
Beaten.
A former world number 3.
Beaten.
Elise Mertens, former world number 12. 20 WTA titles. Beaten 6-2. 6-4. 3 top 20 players. 1 week. On grass. The tennis world's reaction was immediate, loud, and emotional. #Eala Avengers, spelled with that distinctive AA that her fans use, trended at number 1 simultaneously in the Philippines, Belgium, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States within minutes of the final point. Manila went into full celebration mode. From Manila, she didn't just win. She dominated. That's our champion. Mertens had beaten her twice before, twice in straight sets. Alex just dismantled her. This is not the same player who lost in Madrid. She's beaten a world number 2, a former world number 3, and now a former world number 12, all in the last 7 days. What is happening? Tennis analysts were reaching for comparisons and coming up short. One wrote that Eala had now beaten more top 20 players in a single week than some players beat in an entire season. Another pointed to something harder to quantify, but arguably more impressive, the mental architecture required to absorb a semi-final loss one evening and come back the very next day against a player who owns your record and produce that kind of performance. That's not something you can coach, one analyst wrote. That's character. Coco Gauff, one of Eala's closest friends on tour, put it in the simplest possible terms. She just avenged her Madrid loss 6-2, 6-4. She's not messing around. Watch out. Wimbledon. Venus Williams, who had been partnering with Eala in the Bad Homburg doubles, posted something quietly profound. When a young player learns from her losses and comes back stronger, you know she's special. Alex Eala just showed the world what she's made of. And Billie Jean King, someone who has watched women's tennis evolve across entire generations, added her voice to the chorus. The greatest players are not defined by their victories. They're defined by how they respond to defeat. Alex Eala responded like a champion. The timing that made history June 22, 2026. The day of Eala's victory over Mertens was also the Wimbledon seeding cutoff date. The top 32 players in the world at that precise moment would receive protected seedings at the All England Club, shielded from other seeds until at least the third round. Eala had entered Berlin ranked 35th. Her semi-final run pushed her to 30th. Her Bad Homburg victory over Mertens cemented her position comfortably inside the top 32. She will be seeded at Wimbledon, the first Filipino in the history of professional tennis to receive a seeded position at a Grand Slam. And she will not arrive at the All England Club as a curiosity. She will not arrive as a feel-good story or a social media sensation. She will arrive as one of the most legitimately dangerous players in the entire draw, and her potential opponents will know exactly why. They will know she beat Rybakina on grass. They will know she beat a former world number 3 on grass. They will know she just dismantled Elise Mertens in straight sets, winning 78% of her first serve points without dropping a single service game. And they will know what left-handed players with her geometry and her game intelligence can do on Wimbledon grass. The angles. The serve that slides away from the deuce court in ways that right-handers simply cannot replicate. The ability to pull opponents so far off the court that recovery becomes nearly impossible, and then hit the winner into the space they've left behind. She was always going to be dangerous at Wimbledon. What the last 7 days confirmed is that now is her time. Her words, the quiet confidence of someone who did the work after the match. Eala sat down at the press conference and spoke with the kind of measured calm that only comes from players who have genuinely done the work and know it. I learned a lot from those losses, she said, referring to her 2 previous defeats against Mertens. Elise is a great player. She's beaten me twice before, and I took a lot from those matches. Today I was able to put those lessons into practice. Then she paused, and she smiled. Just a small one. The kind that isn't for the cameras. The kind that belongs only to someone sitting with a truth they've been working toward for a very long time. I'm not the same player I was in Madrid. I've grown. I've improved. And I'm excited for what's coming next. What's coming next? What's coming next is Wimbledon. The grandest stage in all of tennis. The tournament that rewards exactly the kind of game Eala has spent this entire grass court season building. The heavy serve, the lefty angles, the footwork that makes chaos look effortless, the mental toughness that doesn't crack when the moment gets biggest. But more than tactics, more than technique, more than rankings or statistics or what the analysts say, she arrives at the All England Club carrying belief. Not the belief that comes from people telling you you're good enough. The belief that comes from walking into a match against someone who has beaten you twice, who humiliated you 6-2, 6-1 on a warm April afternoon, and finding out conclusively, undeniably, that you are better now. That the losses were never the end of the story. They were just chapters. As she walked off the Bad Homburg center court on that June evening, the Philippine flags waved behind her. Laban followed her all the way to the tunnel. And somewhere back home in Quezon City, In living rooms and cafes, on tiny phone screens held up in the dark, a nation felt something shift deep in its chest. This wasn't hope anymore. This was certainty. Wimbledon is coming. And Alex Eala, 21 years old, seated for the first time at a Grand Slam, riding the back of one of the most extraordinary weeks any player has put together on grass in recent memory, is ready. Laban. The next match is waiting.